All right then. Thanks very much for being with us on the stage this morning for our roundtable devoted to defense. Thibaut De Cremoux, you are Engineering Senior Vice President, Methods and Processes of Dassault Aviation. Jérôme Leclercq, you are the DSI of KNDS France. Lionel Rouby, your Chief Digital Officer at Airbus Defence Space. And we have Renaud Blech, who is Chief Digital Officer and Chief Information Officer of Naval Group. Once again, thanks very much for your presence. Before we jump into the deep end, perhaps you could very briefly introduce yourselves, introduce your company, its role within the defense industry, and then what it builds. Who would like to start? So, KNDS France. This is a land defense industry company. We need to pick up on French and foreign land armies' needs. We provide cannon, tanks, armored vehicles, weapon systems for sea and air forces, for frigates, for example. We manage the entire life cycle of our products, from design all the way through to its manufacturing, and then of course support, which is a long period. So we're a systems integrator as well. So we can talk about the Leclerc tank, the Jaguar reconnaissance armored vehicle, as well as the lorry equipped with the Caesar cannon. That's right. KNDS is not necessarily very well known, but of course you'll remember jet industry. There was also Nexter, who works with KNDS, therefore, in the land army arena. Anyway, all these people have changed name now, and I represent KNDS France. So, Airbus, everybody knows that. Everybody's got into a 370 or 380, but you don't necessarily know, Lionel, do you? Airbus Defence and Space. Right, so it's an aerospace European entity. In France, we have Matra. People who enter 20s won't know this, but we operate in 4 major countries: Germany, Spain, France, and the UK. 35,000 headcount, and our products range from combat planes like the Eurofighter, transportation planes like the A400M, the Eurodrone as well. Among drones that we do, a Eurodrone we build in conjunction with Dassault Aviation. We also have supply planes that the French land army operates. Satellites as well, observation satellites, communication satellites, civil and military satellites. We also have space survey instruments. We operate with Arianespace and missiles. So we're dotted around everywhere within Europe in the aviation industry for 11 billion top line year on year, give or take a euro. Thanks very much. Dassault Aviation is a bedfellow with Rafale. That's right. It's the champion in air forces now. This is a plane which has shown that it's a fabulous aircraft in many military campaigns. It's shown how good it is, its versatility, its endurance, and its performance. Dassault Aviation isn't only Rafale. The company's been around for 100 years, more so, intended to design, manufacture, and put in the air emblematic aircraft. We have Oregon, Mirage, and Falcon. So Dassault Aviation is an architecture for the French army, amongst others, and source of pride for us. So, Renaud, it's Naval Group which restored, halfway through its life, the aircraft carrier Charles de Gaulle. That's right, we're an international player, a naval group, and we are partners to states for their maritime sovereignty through, we have surface vessels and underwater vessels. We do design, manufacturing, maintaining operational operability, also naval bases infrastructure and dismantling of sea vessels. So it's the entire life cycle of these structures. We have 10 facilities in France, 18 abroad on the 5 continents, 16,000 headcount for a top line of 4 billion euros. All right, thanks very much. So, gentlemen, what are the major challenges lying ahead of the defense industry? Jérôme? Right, thinking about the current backdrop, currently our objective is to have an effective content to offer to the armed forces. We also need to offer ammunition and vehicles, and increasingly so. We need to increase the availability of military resources for land forces and offering this material support to the theatre of conflict, particularly for modernizing vehicles. Lionel? Well, defense industry in Europe is grappling with geopolitical issues in Europe, and we can see that the Ukrainian war has been a shockwave, really, for our nation and others who realize that the peace that we've benefited from in Europe for years is now under threat. There are uncertainties dangling over the ability of our land forces to get involved in high-intensity, long-lasting combat. So the challenge of the defense industry in Europe is to be able to pick up on these needs. As Jérôme has said, our ability to be able to manufacture, it needs to be tailored to our needs, but also it needs to think about cycle times for putting together fresh products. That needs to be made quicker so we can deploy more quickly to meet the needs of these various nations with these perils that we need to adapt to and that are on the rise. Thanks very much. Thibaut? Yes, this is a turning point. We know that full well. My colleagues are right to say this. The crises are becoming widespread, and also theatre of operations isn't only on the physical land, but it's also in cyberspace, in space, and informational space. So the theatre of operations is becoming more complex and multi-layered. So that's the turning point there. Second point that I think is worthwhile underscoring is that aviation, combat planes, it remains absolutely essential in cooperation among air, land, and sea forces. You can go across borders, you can project yourself, and it can shape a military campaign. And that's true for modern warfare. Without talking about soldiers or armies, think about New Caledonia. In less than 48 hours, the Air Forces, French Air Force, was able to transport to the other side of the world 10 squadrons of gendarmes under 48 hours. And it's only the air that can meet that quick need. Planes deployed by my friend here on the stage. And then the third point, for us, to answer your question, in the defense industry, and I would agree with my colleagues here, we need to offer the equipment, fine, but we need to help the armed forces to ready themselves, anticipate. So they need data. We need huge simulation capacity and digital platforms. I think we can be talking about that in a moment. Exactly so. Renaud? Yeah, well, our industry, of course, is embroiled with the changing flux that we see in our communities. But as my friends have said, left and right of me, we've got specific needs here in France in the defense industry. We have an ambitious military program unfolding. We need to meet those requirements, meeting our deadlines, meeting our very demanding competitivity requirements, but maintaining the positioning of naval forces and our group's positioning. So competition is fierce, as I was saying. In export markets, a number of countries are able to put surface or undersea vehicles on the waters and under the waters. So digital technology, how have they beefed up that capacity that Lionel was speaking about a moment ago, about increasing your capacity to meet demands and to maintain competitiveness? Jérôme, again? Well, the role of digital has become everywhere. On board in vehicles and all through our processes as well. To have processes that are genuinely tailored to a context with our ERP or in the PLM world, you need to have tools that are high performance, adaptable, and that change as time goes by. I joined this company 4 years ago, and this system is 15 years old. Some people say, well, well, it's 15, but now we're almost brushing the 19-year-old mark. The objective is to renew and refurbish things to avoid obsolescence. But it's not to do it just for the fun of it, but to meet high-level requirements in our various spheres, reduce development cycles. The time-wise is very important. So for the PLM, that approach is very important for introducing digital and refurbishing and renovation. Do you agree, Lionel? Yes, that's right. 3DX is crucial. It's a linchpin. It's not specific to us, but goes right across what we do, helicopters, civil aviation, as well as military aviation. And we call this DDMS, Digital Design Manufacturing Device, and it onboards digitally all our processes, from design of a product all the way through to its entry into service among the armed forces, involving, of course, the industrialization of the product per se. So it's this digital continuum across these processes, having digital twins and what have you. This means that we can streamline our procedures, we can reduce cycle times, and basically be more responsive for our customers and improve our competitive edge. So Thibaut, digital is in your DNA, isn't it? In your blood. That's right. You want to escape to anybody that Dassault Aviation and Dassault Systèmes are relatives. That's right, because digital has always been an accelerator pedal for us. And let's look at our foundation, which we need more and more to make aircraft, to devise furtive aircraft, for example, analyze security, for example. All this is built on this foundation, digital. And as years have gone by, we've extended things into other digital into other processes, industrialization, manufacturing, tooling, ALM, mechanical assembly. That's done thanks to digital. And then the last phase, of course, is extending things to the outside world. Perhaps we'll talk about that in a moment. But we are setting up a number of platforms to enable to operate in conjunction with partners. Oh, no doubt it's true for you as well, this? Yes, that's right. Our vessels are increasingly digital platforms in and of themselves. And within the company, I talked about competitiveness, didn't I, a moment ago, but digital is also seen as a key for competitive gains when you think about transforming the company as a whole. This is very important, and this is deployed over 3 pillars, including digital transformation. And within that pillar, what we're looking for is to digitalize the entire chain across all our end-to-end processes. And of course, the customer experience is key in that overall process. Now, in preparing this roundtable, you talked about systems of systems. So perhaps we can talk about that in greater detail, Lionel? All right, then, to talk about systems of systems, what can we say? Look at SCAF. It's the Future Air Combat System, the FICAS program. So you can see a platform not as a plane individually, but look at the mission as a whole, and you can feed in all the ingredients of that will be then interconnected in order to conduct the mission. So it could be a combat aircraft, or it could be people on the ground, on the waves, in space, people who will be steered or directed remotely or not. And the system-to-systems approach, therefore, is holistic, comprehensive, designed to go from seeing an answer and deploying it exhaustively. Fabulous, great, fabulous definition. But it's it's perfect. There's nothing to add. But I would actually, nevertheless, add 2 further points. First one is that this system of systems that Lionel has defined beautifully, it operates when you can exchange data hugely. So this brings us back to digital data, but also linking up data. Second point is that the systems of systems is a dynamic system, as you'll appreciate. When the forces are engaged in a combat and it's not able, how can I put it? It is cut off communications with the outside world. The systems of systems will reconfigure itself dynamically to a combat bubble, which has the the pilots, the aircraft, or in a squadron that can access that confined area. And in that bubble, there's a mission commander, a human being, who provides support, assisted by a system within that combat bubble. And so it's very important to understand that he will have this command delegation scope, because he'll be totally autonomous within that confined combat bubble. All right, so make sure that this is fully operational, this systems of systems, as it were. What do you need? Well, you need a cloud. You need a combat cloud. This combat cloud will garner all the data streaming in from the ground that the sensors have gathered. They've assembled information, and you want to pipe that into a central location so that military personnel can then understand what's going on in the theatre of operations that they're involved in, define, allocate targets, allocate missions, reconfigure things, confront loss of communication, breakdown of communication with people who are beyond the battlefront, people who maybe are disconnected from the cloud during a certain period of time. So then there needs to be autonomy, but then reconnect when they finish their mission to move on to something altogether different. So it's this system interaction among the various stakeholders that we call the combat cloud. All right, thanks. While we're on this, in your introductory remarks, you talked about the Eurodrone. Can you expand on that? Yes, the Eurodrone is the first military program Europe-wide that has been designed to produce a drone that operates at medium altitude for 10 hours or so, a long duration. This has been done in conjunction with Dassault Aviation, Leonardo, and Airbus Defence Space. It has been ordered now by 4 nations: France, Italy, UK, and Spain. 11-ton aircraft, mission type, surveillance, reconnaissance, but also support for ground troops. Thanks very much, Renaud. So, in your group, Naval Group, you also do drones. That's right. Under the umbrella of systems that is similar to what happens on land and air. And in 2021, we really increased our expansion into drones. We offered an armada of submarine and surface drones, and also air drones, all piloted from our naval platform, be they submersibles or surface vessels. And some of them were even tried out by the French Navy in its major maneuvers of 2023. Now, quite clearly, this is bringing back to the heart of our topic here on the roundtable. The heart of the system here is the digital twin of the drone, because ultimately this drone that is piloted from a vessel, it's piloted thanks to a digital twin that is onboarded on the vessel. And that way, you can make sure that you can remain autonomous, decision-wise, and you can control the device itself. All right, digital. What role does it have in operations? Where do we stand? And expectations? Yeah, well, digital is not only seen from a cost perspective. That would be too reductive, particularly when you think about people, operations, who are asking more of digital. Engineering, I was told it was the best job in the world. Industry as well, which needs digital. Earlier on, MES was mentioned in support services as well, interacting with land forces in theatres of combat, but also across other functions that may also need data analysis, particularly in procurement. As systems integrator, we buy a huge amount of our equipment, but then we'll be assembling for our manufacturing our products. On the data side of the equation, you need high-performance procedures that are really tooled up. If you don't have the data, which is of quality, well, you're going to take the wrong decision. And today, one of the major thrusts behind digital performance-wise, over and beyond the implementation of the system. You want to make sure that data is available and of high quality. And I can tell you, this is something that we work on right across the company, the data quality, yes. And Renaud, you would subscribe to what Jérôme is saying? Yes, I would, quite clearly. The major expectation from our users is to have digital continuity right across the value chain. Today, our businesses suffer considerably from a breakdown in that continuum. They have to copy data to leapfrog, and that's desperate for them. It's a waste of time. So this digital continuum that we want needs to go from construction to the delivery of the vessel to the end customer, and also making sure that the vessel is operational throughout the 40 years life of the vessel. So it's a major commitment, because the exhaustive life cycle of our vessels is several tens of years, or even some, it can be up to 100 years. Okay, wow, thank you very much. So Thibaut, let's talk about Rafale, among others. When you put aircraft in the air, it's easy to understand or picture in your mind's eye, but it's difficult to understand, I would say, how you would make sure these aircraft remain operable. I mean, they need to be ready to get off the ground. That's right. Maintenance is crucial in any industrial sphere for Rafale, but also the other Air Force aircraft that we design and manufacture. We have verticalized maintenance, so we operate over a very broad scope, and we commit to our customer that there will be a service contract availability. So this is called RAVEL for Rafale. We meet our commitments and we go beyond that, and we're very proud of that. And if we go beyond what we promise, then we also have this big data, military data that features on the Dassault Systèmes cloud. So what do we do in this platform? Akin to what Lionel was saying earlier on about the combat cloud, we collate data, we process the data, and then we put it out to the industrial player or the military side of things. And we're pretty good with predictive tools. In Ukraine, for example, when that was triggered, armed forces came to us to ask for the most suitable aircraft to go and offer assistance for border surveillance. In the space of 4 hours, we gave them the answer. So without, in 4 hours, and without big data, big military data, without this platform, we could never have done that. All right, then. Renaud, you were talking about certain vessels that could have 100 years life cycle. Now, what about life cycle? Can you tell us more about that in Naval Group? Yes, this is this backbone project with 3DEXPERIENCE, this life cycle project. What is it? Well, it's the backbone of our industrial program for surface or vessels or submersibles, for new build, or ultimately for making these vessels operational throughout their entire life cycle. This is key. So we started with intervention and defense frigates. One will go in the waters in the next few weeks, and we'll be continuing with the future nuclear vessels that launch missiles. And the designs are being perfected over the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. Basically, this is what I want to get across. This project is a success, and it is so for two reasons, primarily. First, a very robust partnership with Dassault Systèmes, which has given us access to Dassault Systèmes R&D to make sure that there can be a good fit with between the solution and our needs, because building submarines is very difficult. I mean, it's one of the most complicated artifacts that man has ever made. It's also thanks to this partnership and this approach that we can get as closer to a standard, standards, rather than making something specific. And this is the two factors that meets, therefore, with customer satisfaction. They talk about data quality. They also talk about securing that data. Is that right? That's right. In terms of securing data, quite obviously for us, this is crucial. As a player in the defense industry, that would hold true. But I think that goes right across any company. They need to secure and make their data safe. So our need for making data secure and reinforcing that security, of course, we have sensitive contracts, as you will appreciate. We're all under the same constraints, and we need information systems that are under restricted access. This is a requirement placed on us by the state, and so moving into the cloud is something that was looked at extremely carefully, as you can imagine, and particularly the fact that you have within Dassault Systèmes a cloud that offers a solid foundation for our accreditation processes. So this is a SecNum cloud that picks up on a number of requirements that are laid down by ENSI, which is the National IT Systems Agency. It's a state-sponsored entity that's responsible for ensuring that data is safe, and we can see the logo here on the screen.
And then beyond that, there are additional requirements, nationality of people involved. They need to be French nationals, all of that so that we can obtain approval. I think Jérôme has said almost everything already. Of course, we have the same concerns in terms of securing our data in a collaborative context. I was talking about BDM earlier, which is based on what is a so-called dedicated cloud, with the principles of what Jérôme has just explained. A second example of collaborative platform on the fighter jet. We were talking about SCAF earlier on. Here it's NGWS. Sorry, a whole lot of acronyms, of course, as Elizabeth was saying. But to have this demonstrator of this fighter, we implemented a collaborative platform open to our German and Spanish friends and based on a secure cloud. Would you like to add anything to that? Yes, I'd just like to point out the fact that we need to fully control these sensitive military data because the people involved, the powers that be, look at things very closely. But we do need to collaborate and cooperate with other European nations. There's Eurodrone, there was the A400M, other aircraft. So we need to develop IT systems that can protect military data and make sure that it does not leave France or fall into hands that they shouldn't fall into. But we also at the same time need to cooperate with other countries, indeed European countries, but foreign countries nonetheless. And the problem is that there is no Europe-wide homologation in terms of military data security. So for the new generation fighter, where there's leadership, we're trying to develop that FCAS, leadership in the combat drone too, and we're also developing our own collaboration system. So collaboration and consensus. Renaud. Yes, of course, our data too is highly sensitive. As long as we don't have a fully approved cloud offering, it's very hard for us to move there. So we host our data in-house, for the time being at least. What I would like to say is that, of course, beyond security, there's also quality. In all of that strategy of digital opportunities, manufacturing is seamless. There's full compliance of the end product, but that can only happen if the initial data is high quality, and that is a key element of our strategy. We need, in parallel to the tool itself, to the chain of tools, there's all of these internal mechanics on how to capture data, to measure the non-quality of data, so that data, non-quality data, can be fixed as quickly as possible, to make sure that manufacturing and reception are done best as possible. It's part of the competitiveness. Thanks. We only have a few seconds left, but what advice would you have for new businesses or engineers who'd like to include 3DEXPERIENCE as part of their systems? Well, this isn't going to be very original. I think everyone does things in the same manner. There are pilots, proof of concepts, and that gets the ball rolling. for these features, but 3DEXPERIENCE is a very, very valuable platform. The cloud has an impact on that. Doing things in the cloud, or at least in my own environment, with the skill sets that were there, the renovation of our information systems, the cloud was really the best place to host that system. Of course, there might be different opinions, but the important thing was to try to make progress on this renewed system, and the cloud, at least in my own personal case, was the right choice. But then you also must not lose sight of the fact that beyond the POCs and pilots, you need to roll out across the entire data repository. We need to have that ability to integrate our digital heritage into the new system. So of course you start small, and it's a bit like, you know, in some competitive sports. You try and look at the rock in front of you when you're on a mountain bike, but you also need to look further ahead. So we need to be very pragmatic, use POCs and so, but know where we're going. Very clear, thanks. Well, I think a lot has already been said, but, you know, back to basics. These tools are part of a step-by-step process. And there's never a big bang moment, or at least very seldom. And we need to stick to standards, avoid specifics, and if the standard is not suitable, we work with our colleagues at Dassault Systèmes and they improve. Yeah, I'd just like to add, yeah, okay, just one word. Careful. Oh, look, he did it. One single word. No, let me just pick up on what has just been presented by our friends at Bell. User centricity. Develop with the end user. That is a key factor for people to embrace the new solution and make the best of it. The step-by-step policy, as Jérôme was saying, baby steps. Start small. And as Renaud was saying, we make highly sophisticated products, and it's always a miracle when an aircraft flies or when a submarine dives, I'm sure. And we tend to forget that. So, of course, we can do every sort of engineering job with Dassault Systèmes. Which brings us to another conclusion, the real conclusion. And you have 3 seconds each. 3 seconds? Okay, security, crucial, needs to be part of the system. Cost, time, in industry, it's part of the fundamentals. HR, onboarding people, working with people, and beyond that, cloud solutions. That can be a solution to address all of the complex constraints. Thank you, Jérôme. Lionel, I'll pick up again on collaboration. We really need collaboration on the European level, and to that effect, we need European standards, and that's what is cruelly lacking at the moment. Thibaut, data. Again, data. We talked a lot about quality. My main concern is the swiftness with which data becomes obsolete. So it's BITD, but then second line for software programmers, they need to help us with that. A point, I mean, it was discussed earlier this morning, a project has a life cycle, it's a transformation project, it's a pathway. An IT project is a process transformation project. It transforms work methods. It transforms the engineering, design, but also industrialization, which of course is key for manufacturing and the whole change of that. It's a huge investment. We haven't really talked about ROI, but there is an ROI. The ROI here essentially comes from the stronger integration between business lines to reduce lead time. Very clear. Thank you very much, gentlemen, to all 4 of you. So we're just a tiny bit late, but everything's so exciting. So let's go back to the automotive world with a global leader in automotive tech, Valeo.
The automotive